Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Fish Creek. By Fu Qingyun's experience upon the martial path, wall break was never something accomplished in a single breath. Most cultivators had to strike again and again, tempering will and chi alike. Some even battered the wall thousands of times before it finally yielded and allowed them to step into the realm of wall break. Calculating the shifting positions of the stars was one matter, but shattering the wall was another entirely. To perform 5 elements wall break, one had to hurl vital chi against the invisible barrier repeatedly, carving out the faintest fissure, then patiently widen it bit by bit until the wall was utterly crushed. Only when the wall could no longer regenerate could the breakthrough be deemed complete. Yet Qinmu had succeeded the instant she departed. Such a feat was exceedingly rare. Unless... Fu Qingyun's heart jolted. Unless Qinmu's vital chi was astonishingly abundant and fierce, so powerful that a single strike was enough to smash the wall outright. Young master, let us clash palms using only vital chi. Seeing the doubt on his face, Fu Qingyun smiled at once. I'll seal my other divine treasures and keep only my spirit embryo and 5 elements active. I merely wish to test how deep young master's cultivation truly is. Qinmu nodded, their palms met, and in that instant both of their vital chi surged forth like raging tides. Fu Qingyun let out a muffled grunt as the sound of rushing wind roared past her ears. The world before her eyes spun wildly as she was hurled backward, smashing through several buildings and high walls in succession, before the momentum finally ceased, her body embedded deep within a wall. Dust-covered, she struggled free and lifted her head to look. She found herself more than 130 yards from Qinmu. Between them lay shattered buildings and walls, each pierced with enormous human-shaped holes, blasted through by his force. Gazing through those gaps, she could see Qinmu standing calmly, and a lingering chill crept into her heart. She had used the full strength of her 5 elements realm, and it had been nothing more than a clash of vital chi, yet the disparity between them was so vast. The realization left her faintly dispirited. A blow, truly a crushing blow. But she quickly steadied her mind and thought, after all, he is the young cult master of our sacred cult. For him to possess such cultivation is only natural. Besides, during the contest at Disabled Elderly Village, he had already defeated me without mercy. Qinmu hurried over. Fu Qingyun smiled faintly. I'm fine. Young master's cultivation is indeed abnormally vigorous. Patriarch and cult mistress judged correctly. There is still a day and a half before Imperial College opens. Young master should stabilize your realm first. Qinmu understood. Having completed 5 elements wall break and awakened another divine treasure, new changes were stirring within his body, changes he had yet to fully examine. Fu Qingyun glanced around and laughed bitterly to herself. Ever since Qinmu arrived, Rain Listening Pavilion had known nothing but calamity. Either the pavilion itself was wrecked, or the buildings were riddled with holes. He truly lives up to being the young cult master, tearing things down wherever he goes. Fortunately, he'll leave my place in 2 days to go and tear down Imperial College instead. And Patriarch is bound to have a headache, and I can finally breathe easy. Unaware of her thoughts about him leveling Imperial College, Qinmu returned to his room. The youth sat cross-legged in silence, and his consciousness slipped into his 5 elements divine treasure. Within it stretched a vast starry firmament, where 5 enormous stars shone brilliantly amid endless darkness. So the 5 elements divine treasure is entirely different from the spirit embryo divine treasure. Qinmu was taken aback. The Overlord Body 3 elixir technique held no cultivation method for the 5 elements divine treasure, which gave him a splitting headache. He recalled the cultivation diagrams of the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. Only the first 2 illustrations were complete. The third was incomplete. Qinmu strained to remember that broken image. In it, there were indeed stars, but besides the 5 stars, there were also 5 gods, each with a distinct form and its own route of vital circulation. Yet more than half the picture had been destroyed, and the precise circulation paths had long since blurred with age. Qinmu calmed himself, allowing his consciousness to drift upward. In the lofty, icy, starry sky, he guided his consciousness toward one of the stars. However, as he advanced, the star seemed to retreat as well, maintaining the same distance no matter how he moved. Qinmu frowned and tried approaching the other stars. Each behaved the same, slipping away whenever he drew near. What is this? He was at a loss. He wished to see whether the 5 gods from the cultivation diagram resided upon the stars, but since he could not reach them, he could only abandon the attempt. His consciousness lingered within the 5 elements' divine treasure. He circulated the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique, and at once a bizarre change occurred. An orange star began to tremble violently, and a pillar of fire-red radiance shot out with a buzzing sound, striking Chinmu's consciousness. In an instant, his consciousness was flooded with blazing energy, fierce as raging flames. That power reshaped the very structure of his consciousness, granting it a tangible form. Guided by the flames, legs emerged from his consciousness, followed by arms and a head. In the blink of an eye, his consciousness fused with the strange energy, transforming into a bizarre being with a human face and the body of a bull. Chinmu stood stunned. Lowering his head, he saw a scarlet bull's body, complete with a bull's tail growing from behind his hips. His torso was bare, and at the tip of his tail hung a tuft of long fur. He flicked his tail, which lashed against his firm, broad buttocks, sending a burning sting through him. His legs were those of a bull, thighs thick and powerful like pillars, though his shanks were slender, ending in solid hooves. More than that, the radiance pouring from the fire element star continued to gather, forming 2 ferocious fire dragons with claws and fangs beneath his feet. Fire God! Chinmu's heart leaped. He had seen sculptures of this very form within the divine temples of Border Dragon City. The people of the Great Ruins worshipped such figures as the Fire God, yet the energy surging from the fire element star was not strong. The body formed from his consciousness was but a faint apparition. Could this be the fire element divine treasure within my 5 elements divine treasure? If so, what of the other elements? No sooner had the thought arisen than another star, sky blue in hue, began to tremble. A surge of aqua radiance shot downward with a buzz, striking his body. At the same time, the remaining 3 stars of differing colors shook, each releasing its own glow that descended in turn, striking his body one after another. Chinmu groaned as his fire god form began to collapse, while other forms attempted to rise. Yet the energies from the 5 stars bore entirely different attributes. Not only were they distinct, they opposed and restrained one another. They clashed within his consciousness, annihilating each other in violent conflict. Boom! A thunderous explosion resounded. Chinmu's consciousness, having entered the 5 elements' divine treasure, was obliterated in the blast. Darkness swallowed his vision as he lost consciousness. When he awoke, he found himself lying on a bed. Hu Linger was gently placing a warm, moist towel upon his forehead. His head throbbed as though a watermelon had been smashed upon the ground, splitting apart. Several girls stood by the bed, faces filled with concern. It seems young master suffered chi deviation. Thankfully, Linger noticed early and summoned us. Fu Qingyun looked worried. Young master, I've already ordered people to brew medicine. It will be ready shortly. However, Imperial College opens in 2 days, and I fear young master may not make it. Chi deviation usually requires over 10 days of recuperation. Outside the door, 2 girls tended the brew, medicinal fragrance drifting inward. Chinmu struggled upright, inhaled the scent, and said, My consciousness is injured and my spirit damaged. The prescription you're preparing is correct, but it lacks pon monkshood. Add 2 mace of pon monkshood. Carry me up. I'll brew it myself. Fu Qingyun was astonished. This young cult master even knew how to refine medicine? Though doubtful, she instructed the girls to fetch the herb. Supporting Chinmu, she discovered his consciousness was frail, his movements difficult, and thus ordered the furnace and fire brought inside. Enduring the pounding pain in his head, Chinmu circulated his vital chi and lifted the furnace. With a gentle shake, it settled upon the floor, while water and herbs within floated aloft under his control. The girl returned and tossed the pon monkshood in at once. Chinmu's hand techniques shifted unpredictably. Before long, the medicinal properties blended perfectly. With a light pluck, the dregs fell away of their own accord. The remaining liquid evaporated into vapor, leaving behind several crimson pellets. Chinmu swallowed the pills and expelled their medicinal energy. The pain in his head eased gradually, though occasional splitting throbs remained. Tomorrow morning I'll brew another batch and I'll be fully recovered. The girls stared in amazement. His method of medicine refinement was plain yet endlessly transforming, dazzling beyond belief. Qi deviation was no minor matter. Could this medicine truly restore him within half a day? Without an advance in technique, it seems I won't be able to cultivate my five elements divine treasure and turn its power into my own. Having regained some strength, Qinmu rose and smiled. I was rash and caused the sisters needless worry. Young master is skilled in healing. Do you also understand gynecology? A girl suddenly asked. Qinmu replied calmly. So long as it concerns medicine, there is nothing I do not know. Her cheeks flushed faintly. I have some pain in my womb. I wonder if young master... Qinmu took her pulse and smiled. A minor issue. Your inner qi has not been properly nourished, resulting in a slight cold womb. I'll write you a prescription. Another girl hurried forward with brush and ink. Qinmu wrote swiftly. This is the womb warming pill. Take it, and it will nourish your inner qi and sever the illness at its root. The remaining girl's eyes lit up. The Guqin girl, face red with embarrassment, asked softly, Young master, I also have a small problem. Young master, please look at me too. Young master, my menstruation is irregular. Fu Qingyun's head began to ache. She shouted, Young master has just suffered qi deviation and has yet to fully recover. All of you stop this ruckus and let him rest. Qinmu smiled. It's no trouble. After qi deviation, I cannot cultivate anyway. This is a good chance to help the sisters nurse their bodies while I rest. It takes little energy. Moreover, I eat and stay here at Sister Yuner's place. How could I not repay everyone for your care? The girls rejoiced and lined up. Qinmu diagnosed each in turn, writing prescriptions one by one. The Pipa girl noticed Fu Qingyun still standing there and smiled. Sister, why are you still here? Fu Qingyun sneered. After a moment, she stepped forward, extended her hand, bit her lip, and spoke softly. Young master, though my cultivation is high, there are some issues with my body. For the past few months, I've suffered red dragon imbalance. It comes and goes unpredictably. Translane Tales, editor Fish Creek. Qinmu pressed 2 fingers upon her pulse and spoke in a calm tone. 4 months ago, when elder sister was cultivating, did a sudden stitch strike your side? The root of your ailment was planted at that time. Fu Qingyun nodded repeatedly. A side stitch did strike me once. I thought it but a minor discomfort and did not take it to heart. Unknowingly, night had already descended. In the capital, jeweled lanterns were lit one after another, casting brilliance that rivaled daylight. The so-called flower streets and willow alleys were the haunts of the famed scholars of the capital. High officials and noble scions also frequented them by night. Flower Alley was not merely a place of selling flesh. The deeper the night grew, the less they sold their bodies, and the more they displayed their arts. The beauties of Flower Alley were versed in the 4 arts. They could sing with moving grace, dance with floating sleeves, and recite poetry with lingering charm, stirring the hearts of nobles to their depths. Yet tonight, the brothels of Flower Alley stood empty, and maidens formed long queues along the alley. None offered their usual services within the houses. When patrons, each a distinguished figure of the capital, asked for their familiar companions, they were told, Within the rain listening pavilion has arrived a divine physician skilled in gynecology. The sisters are all lining up to seek his consultation. They have no time to earn their keep. Young masters, please return tomorrow. A divine physician in gynecology has come to Flower Alley? Outside the alley, an elder clad in plain garments stepped down from a sedan chair and exclaimed in astonishment, Go inquire about this divine physician's medical skill. After a time, a servant returned to report, Old master, the ladies of Flower Alley all praise him as remarkable. They say his medical skill borders on the miraculous. The elder in civilian dress muttered uncertainly to himself. An advisor at his side lowered his voice. Old master must be thinking of that person within the palace. There are ears everywhere. Speak not too much. The elder sighed softly and continued, That person in the palace has long been afflicted by illness. Even the imperial physician could neither diagnose nor remedy it. We can only hope to find a divine physician to prolong her life. Yet time is pressing. Words alone are no proof. Summon Imperial Physician Zhao. Let him test this so-called divine physician of Flower Alley. Understood. Before long, Imperial Physician Zhao arrived and bowed. Old Lord, for what purpose have you summoned me? There is no need for ceremony outside Flower Alley. The elder in plain clothes explained, Within Flower Alley has come a divine physician. I would trouble Lord Xiao to examine his ability and see whether he is capable of curing that person in the palace. Imperial Physician Xiao's hair was white as frost, yet his brows were green and his eyes bloodshot. He gave a cold laugh. What divine physician could appear in Flower Alley? At best, a charlatan seeking fame, deceiving women and children. Why must we see him? The elder frowned slightly, and Imperial Physician Xiao's heart skipped. He quickly added, Old Lord, there is no need for me to see him in person. I need only examine the prescriptions he has written. As he finished speaking, he snatched a prescription from a Flower Alley lady who had just received treatment. Glancing at it, he sneered. Look, Old Lord, the herbs listed are all the cheapest varieties. With such skill, how could he treat that person in the palace? The elder replied in an even tone, Herbs, whether costly or cheap, are equal in essence. They are all instruments for saving lives. The women of Flower Alley are no nobles and possess little wealth. To cure illness with inexpensive herbs, this is true ability. You and I shall enter and observe. You will test him. Imperial Physician Xiao reluctantly assented and followed him inside. Flower Alley stretched deep and winding, and within stood lines of women from every brothel waiting for consultation. After great effort squeezing through the crowd, the two finally reached the rain listening pavilion. Upon entering, they beheld a handsome youth in brocade robes calmly treating patients. Imperial Physician Xiao let out a derisive snort. Look at him, merely 14 or 15, already roaming about to swindle silver. Old Lord, surely you may give up now? Observe his pulse condition. Though deep, it fluctuates from time to time. This indicates qi deviation. A man who cannot cure himself yet dares to deceive others. Old Lord, let us depart. The elder replied impassively, I told you to go. So go. Imperial Physician Xiao could only step forward. Pushing aside the girls, he seated himself directly before Qin Mu and extended his palm, voice booming. Examine me. What illness do I suffer? Qin Mu was startled and lifted his head to regard the elder. Without taking his pulse, he spoke gravely. Old sir, you are gravely ill. Imperial Physician Xiao sneered and rose to his feet. Charlatan, how dare you? You are an apothecary, are you not? Qin Mu continued evenly. Your body carries the scent of thousands of medicines. For years you have dwelt among herbs, inhaling their vapors. You prescribe for yourself and frequently bathe in medicinal decoctions. You have also consumed many spirit pills and miracle elixirs of your own making. Yet you lack true mastery in medicinal refinement and failed to neutralize the poisons within. Now hundreds of toxins have accumulated in your body. Your brows are green, your eyes red. Signs that the poison has permeated your flesh and penetrated deep into your eyes. At this stage, you cannot be saved. There is nothing I can do. Only the King of Hell may save you. Imperial Physician Xiao flew into rage. So furious was he that he laughed instead and asked, Little apothecary, how long do you say I have left to live? Qin Mu hesitated. Had you not become enraged, you might have lived a while longer. But if fury strikes your heart, the poison will follow. Combined with the medicinal residues, you still have 10. Imperial Physician Xiao grew even more furious and said coldly, You say I have 10 days left? What if I do not die within 10 days? Qin Mu frowned and continued, 9, 8, 7. Imperial Physician Xiao could no longer restrain himself. His aura burst forth, shattering the desk before Qin Mu. With a cold sneer, he declared, You claim I shall die now? If I do not die, I shall see you dead. 3, 2, 1. As Qin Mu uttered the final word, Imperial Physician Xiao felt searing agony tear through his heart. His cultivation spiraled out of control. The skin across his body split apart, blood erupting like torrents from a broken dam. In an instant he was drenched red. His flesh began to fester, and he collapsed into a heap of putrid pulp. I cannot save you. Qin Mu shook his head gently. You should not have been angered. This is the consequence of recklessly consuming your own medicines without sufficient skill. Sister Yuner, must this corpse be reported to the authorities? Flower Alley erupted into chaos. The elder in plain clothes was likewise shaken. He gave a silent nod and turned to depart the alley. The disturbance soon subsided. Qin Mu did not continue seeing patients, instead returning to his chamber to rest. The following day, he first cured his own qi deviation, eliminating all lingering ailments. Only then did he resume seeing patients, and before long, another long queue formed in Flower Alley. Fu Qingyun felt secretly anxious. Her establishment had transformed from brothel into clinic. By afternoon, Fu Qingyun hurriedly said, "Young master, tomorrow is the day of the imperial examinations. You must cease seeing patients. Reserve your strength for the exams." Qinmu nodded. "You are right. I shall treat them after the examinations." Fu Qingyun did not know whether to laugh or cry. In a low voice, she said, "Young master, your vocation is not that of an apothecary." Qinmu replied, "I am not merely curing illness. Though I have studied the art of healing extensively, my experience remains shallow. Treating these people allows me to accumulate experience. In the Great Ruins for over 10 years, Grandpa Apothecary imparted countless medical principles to me, yet I had no chance to apply them. Now, in just over a day, I have tested thousands of medical theories." Fu Qingyun's head throbbed. How could the young cult master of Heavenly Devil Cult behave like a wandering physician, treating the girls of the brothels as patients? At last, the day of the Imperial College examinations arrived. Qinmu left Flower Alley at dawn and asked directions as he made his way toward Imperial College. Imperial College stands atop the mountain in the city's center. Qinmu arrived at its gates and lifted his head in admiration. Imperial College, Supreme Academy of the Empire, stood imposing and majestic. It had been constructed upon a jade mountain, itself positioned at the heart of the Nine Dragons mountain range, the pearl clasped within the dragon's jaws. 9 dragons holding the dragon pearl. One could scarcely imagine a more wondrous sight. The chi of the 9 dragons converged here, forming the very spirit of the land. The dragon's chi had transformed the entire mountain into jade. Upon the mountain stood many palaces roofed in green and red tiles. Near them, several enormous ships were moored in mid-air, their sails yet unfurled. At this time, thousands of scholars from across the realm gathered before the mountain, awaiting entry into Imperial College. Beneath the towering peak, more than 10 official registrars recorded the origins and schools of the candidates. Qinmu joined the queue. By the time his turn arrived, the sun hung high overhead. Producing his travel permit, Qinmu said, "This student is from Lizhou Prefecture." No, he is not from Lizhou Prefecture." Suddenly a short, stout youth squeezed past Qinmu and grinned. "He is with me. We are from River Tomb." "Lord Registrar." "Right, River Tomb." The registrar lifted his head and sneered. "I record what is written on the travel permit. The census cannot be altered at will." The youth was Wei Yong. Upon seeing Qinmu's registered origin, he grew vexed. "How unfortunate! We came on the same ship. Had you also been from River Tomb, it would have been easier for you to enter Imperial College." Qinmu was puzzled. "Why is that?" Wei Yong glanced around and whispered, "Have you not heard? The scholars from River Tomb mostly perished on their journey. Aside from our ship attacked by Dragon Rider sect, those traveling by land and air were also ambushed. Only a few survived to reach the capital. It is said the rebel sects sought to make Imperial Preceptor lose face. After all, Imperial Preceptor hails from River Tomb." "What school do you belong to? What is your cultivation?" Qinmu replied, "I was homeschooled, thus have no school. I reached 5 Elements Realm 2 days ago." The registrar shook his head. "Only just reached 5 Elements Realm, and you dare attempt the examinations." After registering, Qinmu and Wei Yong passed through the mountain gate. Many scholars crowded there, waiting. Once all names were recorded, a Taoist announced in a loud voice, "All divine arts practitioners ascend the mountain. The rest remain." Soon, only martial practitioners of Spirit Embryo Realm and 5 Elements Realm remained below the mountain, numbering about 2,000. The middle-aged Taoist led them into the mountains. After a short distance, a sheer cliff over 100 yards tall rose before them. There were no steps, no ropeways. One must either fly, run up, or leap 100 yards in a single bound. If you cannot ascend, return home. The middle-aged Taoist stood beside the cliff and spoke coldly to the gathered scholars. "Is this not simple?" A scholar stepped back several paces, channeled strength into his legs, and sprinted toward the cliff, attempting to scale it. Yet the moment his feet touched the cliff face, he slipped and slammed against the jade wall with a sickening thud, blood spraying from his head. The entire cliff face was flawless, fine jade. His blood splashed upon it, yet slid down without leaving the slightest stain. The scholars below felt their hearts tremble. So slippery,